I'm not a great fan of political parties in general, but it seems to me that if we have an adversarial system where one party opposes another, then it's incumbent on the opposition to come up with some ideas to give the people at least a semblance of choice. Now, in reality, much of this choice is an illusion. When international financiers are backing both sides, the winner of the election hardly matters. But at least, in theory, there ought to be some choice. Yet, if you look at the last 11 elections in the UK, you'll see Labour went lost 79, lost 83, lost 87, lost 92. Blair, 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 lost 2010, lost 2015, lost 2017 and lost 2019. 4 losses, 3 Blairs, 4 more losses. It betrays a complete lack of original thinking or a boldness which could think the unthinkable. Instead, we've been served up the same tired, out-of-date tropes that have been rejected by the electorate time and again. The forthcoming boundary changes aren't going to help the opposition party, so the problem won't get any easier. Labour's collapse north of the border delivered that once proud nation into the hands of some parochial anti-English racists, and this has been a disaster for that once proud country, turning it into a de facto one-party state, so this matters. Following the predictable and widely predicted Labour defeat of 2019 under Jeremy Corbyn, Labour decided that a charisma-free cardboard cutout of a man called Sir Keir Starmer was exactly the person to win back the working man. If an out-of-touch, dreary Knight of the Realm and Queen's Counsel couldn't identify with Labour's traditional supporters, who could? Well, almost anyone else in the world, with a possible exception of Diane Abbott, came the reply. Labour, following the 2019 defeat, have produced no new policies worth a damn. Can anyone name even one new Labour policy initiative? And it's not like there aren't some policies crying out for adoption. From the top of my head, I could go with education vouchers. The Tories are terrified of this, even if they know it would be radically successful. So in the same way only Nixon could go to China, Captain Cardboard ought to announce a bold new initiative in local democracy by letting parents decide how their school is run. Or he could announce new housing zones to be designated by the planning minister with no requirement for local authority planning consent. Councils have failed for 30 years. Their time is up. This would open up home ownership to millions currently denied it. Or they could actually enforce immigration by announcing a creation of a force of, say, 200 Navy-run small fast patrol boats to guard the channel, with every last boat from France being turned around. These policies would be wildly popular. But what do we get instead? On COVID, Labour typically abstain. Let that sink in. The biggest single issue this country has faced for 50 years, and Labour, the official opposition, have no opinion on it. Instead, they're transfixed with trendy but wildly unpopular and pretty much irrelevant things like trans rights. I heard one of them being unable to give a definition of what a woman is. They've also got to drop the identity politics stuff. It plays terribly badly in the country. Now, loyalty may be an admirable trait, but if you've got some wrong-uns in your party, you've got to expel them. Be honest, there have been some absolute shockers, and for reasons of melanin, Labour refused to notice. Remember, Labour's last recovery started when Kinnock gave Militant the boot in the 80s. Lastly, they have to start discriminating again in favour of competence. It seems if you're from a certain demographic, you get front bench jobs, even if you're clearly not up to the task. There are a few like this, and Diane Abbott's comical interview with Nick Ferrari about police numbers and the funding is just the most famous example. All Labour seem to be doing is sitting on their hands, waiting for a recession and bitching about Boris Johnson's cushions. Frankly, it's pathetic. Now please, don't think I'm a Tory. I'm absolutely not. They failed on crime, failed on the economy, failed on COVID, failed on immigration, and massively failed on budgetary control or even protecting civil liberties. Yet the last poll I saw had Johnson, this disaster, this walking sewage treatment plant of a man, 16 points ahead of Starmer. Now, Sir Keir may get the boot if the local elections were as bad as are feared, although Labour aren't great at replacing obviously useless leaders, but it hardly matters. It's not personnel. It's new, bold policies that are required, and there are none on display. And it's not like any of the leftist pressure groups have much of a vision either. Extinction Rebellion want you freezing, in the dark, eating bugs rather than beef, never being allowed to fly again, with weekends rummaging around garbage to look forward to. Sign me up. BLM are preaching a message of absolute hopelessness. White people are guilty as a class and irredeemably bad unless they are fully Marxist, and black people are always and forever hopeless victims of oppression, no matter how far we've come on race relations. And it's an absolute tragedy because a pluralist democracy needs a robust exchange of views and new policies to come forth to be tested in the forge of debate. Social democracy, both from the left and the right, has run aground and the tide is ebbing away. Where is the new Thatcher, the new Attlee? Where are the new ideas coming from? This is a tragedy because if not for the left in, say, the 1970s, we wouldn't have tackled racism to anything like the degree we did. The left, too, is in the vanguard of the anti-war movement, and who these days opposes random bombing of a country most people couldn't pick out on a map. And if the mainstream parties can't or won't represent people, you'll see a further erosion of trust in the centre and people drifting to the fringes, and we know where that can lead. So come on, Labour, up your game. This will force the lazy, useless, decadent Tories to up theirs, and then maybe we'll have some halfway decent choices of new policies for new circumstances. If you like this, please like, recommend and subscribe.